The Victoria Martens case. Today's case is of 10-year-old Victoria Martens. This case has so many twists and turns. Just when you think you know the story, it does a complete 180. Now, Victoria Martens was born on the 23rd of August 2006. She was in the 4th grade at elementary school, and everyone who knew her described her as a very happy, social child, saying, she was very outgoing, very friendly. She loved everything purple. It was her favourite colour. She loved gymnastics. She attended a Saturday class at G-Force Gymnastics Academy. Her instructor said, her mother, Michelle Martens, she always brought Victoria to her classes and stayed and watched her perform. She also loved swimming, and she was regularly attended church. She loved going to church. She was friends with the minister's 2 granddaughters. Now, Michelle Martens worked in a local grocery store. She had never been in trouble with the law prior to all this happening. People who knew Michelle described her as a very nice woman who was really dedicated to her kids. If you look at her Facebook profile, it's flooded with pictures of her 2 kids, Victoria and her younger brother, Matthew. Now, in July of 2006, Michelle met a man by the name of Fabian Gonzalez on a dating website called Plenty of Fish. He quickly moved into the apartment Michelle shared with her 2 children. Fabian Gonzalez was an alleged gang member. He was heard bragging about being a member of the Thugs Causing Chaos gang. He had several charges and 2 convictions, I believe. One of his charges was for child abandonment. Another 2 were for violence against women, evading a police officer, and I think there was a few more charges put in there as well. Now, another main person involved in this case is Fabian's cousin, Jessica Kelly, who, like Fabian Gonzalez, had a criminal record. Hers a lot more colourful. 2 of hers were actually felony convictions. One was rape, and she had not long been released from prison, I believe, about a week prior to this happening. On being released from prison, she had been staying at Michelle's apartment. I think Fabian had told her she could live there for about $50 a week. So on the 23rd of August 2016, this was Victoria's 10th birthday. She went to school, and at school she was telling everyone how excited she was that she was having a birthday party after she got back from school. Victoria got off the school bus at around 4:25 p.m. And she was seen, heading into her apartment complex. Fast forward to later on that night, neighbours reported hearing screaming coming from the apartment, and at approximately 4:30 a.m. on would have been the 24th of August now, Michelle Martens and Fabian Gonzalez started banging on the neighbours' doors, shouting that Kelly had attacked them with a clothes iron and begging them to call the police. Police were called, and on arriving, Jessica Kelly was still inside the apartment and refusing to open the door. And Michelle Martens told them that her daughter, Victoria, was actually still inside the apartment with Kelly. So police broke down the door, and Kelly, trying to flee, actually jumped over the balcony and broke her own leg. Now, after gaining access to the premises, the police saw smoke billowing out from underneath the bathroom door. The bathroom door was closed. And so, opening the door and stepping into the bathroom, they just actually discovered Victoria's partially dismembered body wrapped in a burning blanket. Upon the discovery of Victoria's body, police arrested all three of them, Michelle, Fabian and Jessica Kelly. Once at the police station and being interviewed, Michelle Martens, Victoria's mother, told a horrifying story. She told police that Fabian and Kelly had injected Victoria with methamphetamine to calm her down so that Fabian could rape her. She said that Fabian raped Victoria while Kelly held her down, and that Fabian then strangled Victoria and Kelly stabbed her. And all the while, Michelle Martin said that she just sat there and watched this. She just sat there and watched them rape and murder her daughter. She also told police that she believes Fabian had been having sex with Victoria, every day for the month that they had been together while Michelle was at work, and that she had actually, prior to this, set up 3 previous men to rape Victoria while she sat there and watched. Michelle, Fabian and Jessica were all charged with second-degree murder, sexual penetration of a child, and among other things. An autopsy of Victoria concluded that Victoria had in fact been raped, choked and stabbed before being dismembered and then set on fire. It concluded that Victoria had died somewhere between 7:45 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. on her 10th birthday. Now, Michelle's version of events was the story that everyone believed, because, why else would she say all of this if it wasn't true? And for about a year, maybe a little bit more, that was the story that everyone believed. That was the events that had happened. But, why? Because why would she confess to something this horrific if it didn't actually happen? But the problem with Michelle's story is that it's just not true. For a year, police just believed what she'd told them. They gathered all of the evidence and then they handed it over to the district attorney's office. But going over all the evidence, the district attorney's investigators, and they came to realise that the evidence, it just didn't match up with Michelle's story. In fact, they concluded that Michelle Martens and Fabian Gonzalez were not even present in the apartment at the time when Victoria died. The autopsy put Victoria's death at the latest 8:30 p.m. at the latest. Michelle and Fabian did not even go back to the apartment until 8:45, 8:50, and by which time Victoria was already dead. And police forensics did actually find the DNA profile of an unidentified man on Victoria's remains. Now, Jessica Kelly tells a very different story to that of Michelle. She told police that she had been babysitting Victoria and that she was high on drugs when a well-dressed man showed up at Michelle's house looking for Fabian. Now, on the 24th of August, Jessica Kelly had a coming home barbecue at what Gonzalez was actually attacked by 2 females, giving him a black eye. She said after this happened that Fabian had swore to retaliate, said that he started looking online at classified ads for guns and calling up known gang members. Kelly said that night she was tweaking and hallucinating from the drugs that she had been taking all day. and that Michelle and Fabian knew that she was high, but yet they still left her to babysit Victoria. She said that a car drove past the apartment around 3 or 4 times, and then a man showed up at the house asking for Favo, which was Fabian's street name. And upon learning he was not at the apartment, the man forced his way inside, went to Victoria's room, and he killed her. And then told Jessica Kelly that her and Fabian Gonzalez had messed up and that Gonzalez needed to clean up the mess or she and her kids would be next. She said that when Michelle and Fabian got back to the apartment, she took her cousin aside and told him that Victoria's dead, told him what had happened, and then they both decided to clean up the crime scene and then bury Victoria's body once Michelle had gone to bed. That is Jessica Kelly's, version of events. After learning this new version and going through all of the evidence, investigators actually dropped the murder charges and also the sexual penetration of a child charges. So Michelle Martens, she actually accepted a plea bargain of child abuse resulting in death. She faces up to 12 to 15 years in prison. And Jessica Kelly has also accepted a plea bargain. She of child abuse resulting in death, but also tampering with evidence because she has admitted to cleaning up the crime scene, and also that she was the one who dismembered Victoria's body, and also aggravated assault as she did attack Michelle Martens with a clothes iron. She actually faces up to 50 years in prison because she is a habitual offender. Also, as part of her plea deal, she has to testify against Fabian Gonzalez because she says that, he helped her dismember Victoria's body. Now, Fabian Gonzalez, on the other hand, he tells a different version of events as well. He says that he is completely innocent. He did not help dismember Victoria's body. Victoria was dead when they got back to the apartment, and that he will not take a plea deal because he has done nothing wrong. He had originally been charged with, second-degree murder and sexual penetration of a child because obviously Michelle did say that he had raped her daughter and murdered her. But he said he is completely innocent. He will not take a plea deal. He said that he considered himself the man of the house and Victoria's protector. He said he babysat her while Michelle was at work. He helped her with her homework. He took her to the zoo. He walked her to the bus stop for school in the mornings. He bought her a kitten. Fabian said he had a good relationship with Victoria. He stated, "She loved me, we'd always smile. That's just how I am with kids, during his interview with police. Also, during the investigation, police did actually find a written letter by Victoria addressed to Fabian saying, "I like you because you are funny and you are taking me to the zoo. I just like you." And the note also had a little red heart cut out of the front of it. Now, Gonzalez says that Kelly's version of events are all lies. There was no man, and he was not part of a gang. This was not any sort of retaliation towards him. Gonzalez said that he believes Kelly killed Victoria while he and Michelle were out of the apartment, and that he's actually glad she's testifying against him because that means that she needs to take the stand and then his lawyers can cross-examine her. Fabian had originally, as I said, he had originally been charged with, second-degree murder and sexual penetration of a child, but those charges have actually been dropped and he's now only charged with child abuse resulting in death, same as both Michelle and Kelly, and also tampering with evidence because Jessica Kelly said he helped dismember Victoria's body. Fabian's lawyers have said that there was no gangster hitman and that they believe Kelly has gotten away with murder because she's took a plea deal, and murder was not any of the charges on that. Now, Fabian Gonzalez has maintained this entire time that Jessica Kelly is responsible for Victoria's death. He said that when he and Michelle got back to the apartment, Jessica Kelly came walking down the stairs with Victoria in her arms and told them that Victoria was asleep. She then proceeded to put Victoria in her room, in Jessica Kelly's room. He said later that night, after making tacos, he and Michelle went to bed, and then they were woken up at about 4:30 in the morning by Jessica Kelly screaming at them, to give her their phones. She then proceeded to attack Michelle Martens with an iron. After a struggle, they ended up downstairs again, and he said he saw Victoria, and then Jessica Kelly started trying to cut Victoria up with a knife. And then he said that he was the whole time trying to get her off and trying to cover Victoria. He said he got scared because, this woman was sat here trying to cut up a 10-year-old child. So he then jumped out the window to run to the neighbour's house to get help. And that is when, they were at the neighbours' doors and asking them to call the police. Now, the Children, Youth and Families Department had received 4 referrals concerning Michelle Martens prior to Victoria's death. It was between March of 2015 and June of 2016. Now, the CYFD said only one of those referrals was actually concerning Victoria. The other 3 were concerning her brother. They said that they had uncovered no evidence of any physical or sexual abuse. They said that all 4 reports over the space of that year did not involve any sexual or physical abuse complaints. They said that the complaints were that someone had reported that the kids had poor hygiene and dirty clothes, and that the grandparents had improperly disciplined Victoria's brother, and that the grandparents and Michelle had actually consumed alcohol in front of the kids. They said that both kids were interviewed and both of them were clean, tidy and looked well cared for. The report made concerning Victoria was in March of 2015, and that was that one of Michelle's boyfriends at the time had tried to kiss Victoria. The CYFD said that they assessed this claim and found that upon finding this out, Michelle had broken off the relationship and never saw the man again. Now, in May and June of 2016, they received another 3 calls about Victoria's younger brother, ranging from poor hygiene to the biological father leaving the son in the care of someone unknown to him. 2 of these calls were actually placed by Michelle Martens herself. By the sounds of it, Michelle and her ex-husband, her son's father, were going through a custody battle, and both of them were calling CYFD on each other. After Victoria's death, her ex-husband actually came forward and stated that Michelle was not a monster and had just gotten in with the wrong crowds. I've saw so many people comment and under articles and say, like, why would you confess to seeing your daughter raped and murdered if you hadn't actually witnessed this, if you weren't actually involved? But the fact of the matter is that it happens all the time. People confess to murder all the time when they never actually done it. There are so many people in jail for confessing to crimes that they just did not commit. Fabian Gonzalez has actually been released from prison pending his trial. He got released. He was in prison for about 3 years after the murder, but about 7 months ago a judge released him because of the new evidence and the new story that was being told, a completely different version of events. So he is out, and he's out pending his trial. Now, we won't actually find out whose version of events is true until Fabian Gonzalez goes to trial. Now, we know that Michelle's version of events are not true. She did not watch her daughter being murdered by Fabian Gonzalez and Jessica Kelly. So it's just basically to determine whether Jessica Kelly is telling the truth and there was a man who came to the apartment looking for Fabian Gonzalez and he killed Victoria, or whether, Fabian Gonzalez's version of events are true and he believes that it was Jessica Kelly who killed Victoria. He doesn't believe there was any man at the apartment, but police have said they found the DNA profile of an unidentified male. So if there was really a man there, and Jessica Kelly knows who he is, she is not telling police at all.